What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. We're out in the garage. It's another day. We've got another e-bike problem. So, yesterday, I was riding my bike right outside, less than 50 feet outside the garage. It's super cold outside. It was like 0 degrees or negative something degrees outside. Very cold. But I was riding my fat bike, G62 1000-watt rear hub motor, Bafang G62 motor. I was riding the fat bike out in the snow, having fun, letting the dog out for a minute. And I was going through the snow, basically just kind of rolling down a hill, slow, very, like just a gradual baby hill, very small hill. And I mean, you could barely slide down it on like a sled. It's just a very baby hill. So I was just basically rolling down the front yard, and then I changed between accelerating and then regen braking, and then it just felt like something just broke. And then after it felt like, and so it was basically like as soon as I started regen braking, it just felt like something broke and I could hear the tire like rubbing on the frame, like. So I just like brought the bike to a stop. I was very lucky that this happened when I was going very slowly, like outside in the grass, in the snow, going like 6 miles an hour. Because I think if it would have happened when I was going faster, it would have been very bad news. But what happened was like I hit the regen brake, and I have it set to like 50 phase amps or something on the regen braking. So, I mean, I've had it set quite a bit higher than that. I use 75 phase amps for the acceleration, but then 50 phase amps for the braking. And somehow I've snapped the axle on my Bafang G62 1000-watt hub motor. You can see right through there, like I snapped the axle. And so like I can just like, I mean, like, look at this. Snapped the axle. That is so crazy and dangerous to snap. Like, look at this. And it's such a weird place where it snapped. It's kind of like the axle snapped like in the only spot where there wasn't like something screwed on around the axle. Like this, I think just like right here, there's maybe like 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters or something of the axle where there's nothing screwed around it right there. And then over on the other side, it's the axle, there's no area where there's nothing around it. So I don't know if I was missing a spacer right there or what. Like, it's just crazy how this happened. I can't believe it. Oh man. But yeah, so I snapped the axle on the Bafang G62. So I was pretty bummed out about that yesterday, and I was just sitting here and I couldn't believe it. And I just like considering like, well, what would have happened? What would have happened if your axle snapped when you were regen braking, like riding on the street or something? Right, so I mean, what happened when the axle snapped was like I said, I could hear the tire rubbing on the frame. So I'm assuming the tire was like rubbing on the, probably like on the chainstay, because the whole wheel, because I was still riding the bike and like it was still going even after the axle snapped right here. It's still holding on the other side, and it would like the bike was still going. I can't believe it. I'm still like, I tried to make this video yesterday and I couldn't, because I was just like speechless, and I kept just looking at this and I was just like speechless. And today I'm still like, I had to sleep on it and I'm still sitting here and I'm still just speechless. Like, what the heck? How does that happen, man? So, oh. So it's not a total loss. I've got two of these motors, and like I whenever I break one, I'll like take spare parts out of the other one to fix the other one, and then so this is the noisy boy. This is the Grintech G62 with the 6.5T motor windings. This was kind of like my favorite one, the more torquey one that I got from Grintech. But then I've got another one that I got from a Chinese website, greenbikekit.com. And that one has a 6T winding. And so the weird thing is that this motor, like this is a newer motor. This motor, like I only used this thing probably like last year was when I started using this thing and tried it out. And so my other G62, I used that one for probably like 2 or 3 years before I ever used this one. So I mean, it's just really weird to me that my newer motor that I've only used like less than 1 year maybe is the one where the axle snapped. And like I've ridden on that other G62 for years. And like that one wasn't, I never broke that one. It's just crazy to me how this is the one that broke. So I can fix this. I think that this motor core in this G62 might be shot. I'm not sure how easy it is to like replace the axle and separate the axle from the stator and the rest of it. I'm not sure like where you would even source an axle. And I'm not sure like on these motors, I think Bafang started making these motors with the M14 axle. Mine has the M12 axle. And I've always had like this axle, this M12 axle, it's always been a little bit questionable in terms of like the axle and the dropouts and like wanting to spin around and stuff. I've got another hub motor that has an M14 axle, and it's just like the flats on it are just a lot bigger, and it just feels a lot chunkier and a lot more secure in the dropouts. So I think if I build with any of these motors in the future, I'm definitely going to make sure that I get one with an M14 axle, because I can't believe this. So let's get this camera on my chest here, and then we'll dig in and we'll see. I want to look at this. This is totally wacky. And so first, this is basically like the axle snapped, and I was lucky. I was going so slow that the axle snapped, and I basically just like put my feet down and stopped the bike when I heard the weird noise from the tire rubbing on the frame. So it's kind of like preserved pretty well, like the state of things, the situation on my bike here. So I'm kind of curious, because I had, so let's see, are these the hose clamps on my torque arm still seem very tight. I mean, I think all of this torque arm still seems very tight, and like the axle is still inside of there, right? And it snapped right here. It's just crazy to me how that happens. But so I don't know. I mean, I think the torque arm was fine, and like from what I can see here, we're gonna have to take a closer look. But it seems like it was like metal stress fatigue kind of thing going on, because when I look in the center of the axle, it's got like this white, like, we're gonna have to take a closer look, guys. Hey, GoPro, are you still going? All right. So I'm gonna undo all this. I'm gonna undo all this stuff, all my torque arms and stuff, and we'll take a look at the pieces as we go here. So after I JB welded my derailleur back together, I have to take my derailleur off first. Damn it, where did all my tools fall down here? All right, oh wow, there comes this torque arm. Oh my goodness, boys, look at this. Look how stress fractured that looks. Wow, that is unbelievable, dude. Alright, so I'm gonna get this little, let's see here. Can you guys see that? Oh my goodness. Look at that stress fracture. Is that what that is? Wow, that's unbelievable. Alright, so I'm gonna take, wow, that's nuts. I'm gonna take this anti-rotational washer off here. See, look at the metal is all chewed up from breaking and I can't even get this off. That's crazy. Where'd my players go? So here's an inside look at my Grintech V7 clamping torque arm and how strongly it was clamping onto my axle before the axle broke. That is crazy. The torque arm works good, I'll give it that. I greased it up because I noticed that there was like some surface rust getting on there and it was hard to unscrew these screws when it's got a little bit wet and like there a little bit of rust started. So you gotta, this thing, like they say it's stainless steel, but I don't know about these bolts because the bolts seemed like they started rusting. So I put a whole bunch of grease on it. But wow, that's crazy, man. That's the axle for my motor that I ride my bike around on. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm still just kind of like, I can't believe that this happened. Because it's like, man, it could have been so bad. Oh. I guess maybe I should leave this in there and then get this off. I gotta unscrew this axle nut off of the... Where's my thing here? I should get this off first. Otherwise, it's never gonna... Let's see here. Switch the... I can't believe... Alright, well, I guess I should keep this torque arm kind of clamped on here, and then I can unscrew this axle nut like this. And then, let's see here. I think the axle is just gonna come out. Let's get this. Well, the axle is actually clamped in there, so it won't come out, but... Okay, so we got that thing loosening off of there, the axle nut. Man, this is crazy. So Grintech, they're not kidding about this torque arm V7 for Regen. It is definitely stronger than your axle because my axle snapped. Torque arm still clamping on there nicely. Holy buckets. Alright guys, we're back. We're back at taking this derelict motor with a broken axle off of here. I had to take a breather for a minute. I'm still kind of in disbelief at this whole situation. I never would have believed that the axle on my Bafang G62 would break in such a manner. Where did my tools go? So the motor, the whole wheel is just suspended in the dropouts by the axle on the brake side, the non-drive side. So we just got to get that nut off of there, and then I think the whole dang thing is just gonna drop out of here because the axle is gone. It's a total goner right here. There's nothing going on. So I'm lucky I wasn't on the bike going fast, and I can't stop thinking about that. Like, what happens if you're going fast and then all of a sudden you do regen braking and your axle snaps and you're like going 40 miles an hour? Oh. Alright, so let's see here. Let's get this tool. Alright, so I'm gonna get my torque arms and everything off of this other side over here. We gotta get some tools. Where's all... Alright, so I think we can just get the deep socket for the axle nut now, and then, let's see here. Loosen this thing off. And then I think as soon as I take this axle nut, it's just gonna probably start dropping out of dropouts. It's a nylon locking axle nut, so it's got some nylon locking action. Alright, here, it's coming off. Get the torque arm and everything off here, so so it got all like twisted in there. It seems like the dropout got spread, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's still probably usable. It's mostly just the axle got twisted into the dropout so good. The dropout actually doesn't seem... It actually doesn't seem like that bad. I don't know. I think the axle just got twisted. The dropout doesn't seem bad. I don't know. This bike is like 4 years old or something. And it was kind of like a Walmart bike to begin with. So it wasn't like the pinnacle of engineering from the get-go or anything like that. Let's see. So I guess I should probably take the brake rotor off of this thing. So guys, make sure you let me know in the comments, what is your theory about why the axle snapped? So it was an M12 axle, so not the best. They also have M14 ones that are a little bit chunkier. So I think in the future, if I get another one of these motors, I'll probably want one that's the M14. But what else? I mean, I think there's probably a number of factors that could have caused the axle to break like that. It definitely seems like some kind of like a stress fracture. It's really interesting to look at. I'll maybe get some pictures of it. It's really interesting to look at. I'll maybe get some pictures with my phone because I don't know, like the GoPro doesn't work great for taking pictures of stuff up close. I don't know where I put my phone though, so we're just gonna keep going here. Oh, it's in my pocket. Alright, let's take a picture, or a video of this. Man, that is such a weird thing. Can you guys see that? How that axle just broke right there. Let's see, it's gonna be hard to We might have to send some pictures over to Hambini. Maybe he knows what happened. I don't know. But that's a close-up look at the axle that snapped here. But yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. Why do you think it snapped? Was it the? I mean, let's think about all of the reasons that the axle might have snapped. So as far as I can remember, I've been using this particular motor since like May of 2024. So I mean, it didn't make it very long. And I have been using the flip ski with it. So there was at one time when I turned the phase amps up to 105 and then I broke the nylon gears that first time. So at one point I did 105 phase amps. And then this was the motor that I was riding around on this bike. I rode it around out at the mountain biking place a little bit, and I went off some drops and some small, tiny jumps. Like I never did any big jumps or anything. But it was a mountain biking place. I mean, it's a pretty rough place to ride. There's a lot of bumps and like roots and stuff, and like, yeah, just rolling over things in general. But then I don't know. I mean, it's a common denominator that I've realized or noticed is that when it's really cold outside in the winter and I'm doing regen, it seems like things just break. I don't know, because the last time that I broke the last time I shredded all my nylon gears, it was really cold out, and I'm pretty sure that the regen broke the nylon gears. So let's see here. Man, we gotta look at this. We gotta look at this part. Oh, man. This is crazy. The axle... I wonder if it has anything to do with my new jam nut. See, there's my new jam nut. So the axle... It seems like it broke right at the part... Right at the new jam nut. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or what. Because, I mean, if you look at this thing... I'll take a picture of this with my phone, too. This is wacky. It definitely looks like a stress... Some kind of like a stress fracture. There's like a weird... That's some weird looking metal, man. Let's see here. Let's get the video going and the light here. Man, that's crazy. But there's like, I don't know. It looks like it was like getting stressed from the inside out or something, or like getting twisted or something. I don't know. What do you guys think happened? Leave a comment. Leave your theory. That's what commenters are good at, is theorizing about what happened. So give it to me in the comments, boys. All right, so I wonder, can I get my jam nut off of there? We're gonna have to. Let's see what's going on with that thing. Where's my socket? I guess we'll have to get the cassette tool first. Get that baddie off of there. Let's see here. Cassette tool, can you go in there? Yeah, just barely, man, just barely. That jam nut took up most of the space. Man, I thought that I had, oh man, I'm just like, I'm still in disbelief that this whole thing happened. I thought that I had this bike totally sorted out. And like, I thought that like I had this bike sorted out and it was good to ride for this winter, and it was like gonna be easy to get it ready for the riding season because I had got that new Regen torque arm and I had got the new I got the Loctite in there and that was working good. Let's see, where's my... This was a surprise to me. Man, I'm just losing my tools here today. Where do I keep putting all this shit? Alright, so after I use that jam nut, definitely a little bit harder to use this cassette removal tool, but we can still fit it in there. A little bit difficult to do it though. Okay, let's see here. Can we do this? Can we get this? Man, that is tricky doing that. Oh. Alright guys, well this new jam nut that I've installed has made the cassette lock ring removal process much more difficult. So this is the system I've developed to do it this time. Oh. And I think I just need to grind down the jam nut a little bit on one side so I can get the lock tool in there a little bit further, because that was, I'm lucky I could get that off. Like, whew, man, got that off there. I think. Let's see here. God damn it. Ah. All right, I got the 10 mil down here on the flats, and then I can get this jam nut off of here, which is jammed onto the derelict broken axle. Let's see here. It's now in the end of my thing here. All right, so let's take this jam nut and then let's take a look at the jam nut. It was hard to thread this jam nut on to the axle when I was putting it on there, so I wonder, let's see what the threads on this thing look like. We need a paper towel or something. Alright, so we got the wheel off the bike. I've got the jam nut off of the broken axle. So now I've just got to take all of those 3 mil screws out of it so I can take the motor core out. And then I'm just going to pop the other motor core back in there that I have from my second motor. And I'm probably going to call it a day. I might do the regen again in the future. I don't know if I'm done with the regen. Like, there's part of me that is thinking, geez, you know, after seeing this happen, after snapping an axle on my Bafang hub motor, it seems like I'm kind of like blaming it on the regen. But I'm also, I mean, I was out in the cold. I took it off like some drops and stuff at that mountain biking place. Like, I don't know, but I think mostly it seems like kind of like a stress fracture on the axle. So I mean, it must have just been the regen, you know. So I don't know, like, if you're gonna do regen with one of these geared hub motors, you really got to make sure that you have you probably want to make sure that you have the V7 regen torque arm from the get-go, and make sure that your motor isn't like shifting around in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Like, because I did ride this around for a while where I was doing regen and like it was slightly shifting just a little bit, but it was tolerable most of the time, like unless the axle nuts started coming loose. But man, It's kind of scary now, like, and I'm torn. I'm kind of torn because I like, once I started using Regen, I really like the Regen. And it's so useful and it works so well and it saves on brake pads and it was just like a whole new dimension to this motor when I welded that clutch and then started doing Regen. But it was also like really crazy how the Regen makes the axle shift back and forth in the dropouts. And then you need a really crazy torque arm. And you really got to keep an eye on all of your torque arm and the hardware and everything. I mean, even then, even when you do that, I mean, I tried my best. It's not like my torque arms. I mean, my torque arms were maybe not like 100%, but I mean, most of the time they were like mostly there. You know, like there were a couple times where they came loose a little bit, but it's usually pretty obvious if something like that happens. So I don't know. I think it was just from the regen, like this M12 axle, just the regen just demolished it. So let's open this thing up here. Yeah, so there it is. That's where it snapped, kind of right where they start machining all of like the threads and everything on there. It's kind of like right where the jam nut goes. It does seem like my jam nut. Man, I don't know. The machining on this axle is so weird. Like, what is that jam nut supposed to press up against here? Like, this is. Let's take a look at the machining on this axle. Get this grease off of here. But so this is how the axle's machined. It's just like the threads, they just thread up to like nothing. And then it's like, well, what the hell's going on? There's this big like, man, there's like a big like divot or like something in my axle now. I wonder if that was from drilling or something. I don't know. In any case, this motor, this G62 is kind of effed. Unless there's some way that you can put, like, replace just the axle on a G62. I've never tried to. Let's take a look at that parallel key. I've never tried to take the axle off of the stator, so I'm not sure how possible that is. Man, that's a lot of brake dust. Alright, well, I'm gonna go get my other motor and just put it in here, I guess. So let's put this one aside. I guess I can still use this. I can maybe use this welded clutch in the future if I want to do regen again. It still seems like all the nylon gears were like doing okay here. I don't see any problems with the nylon gears. Man, I'm so... Actually, I don't know. Some of the nylon gears do look a little bit... I'll have to look at that. Maybe. Some of the nylon gears do look like they got a little bit damaged or something, like... Huh, weird. Or they're just kind of like black right there. Interesting. For the most part, the nylon gears are fine. I don't see any problems with them. Man, that's a bummer. I can't believe that thing snapped right there. That's so crazy. I gotta take a picture of that with my phone still. All right, so I've got my backup motor out of the box, out of the carton from whence it came. All right, so let's bust this guy out of here. Let's get the motor core out. Let's get it out of here. Drop it out. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's set that. So it is helpful having like a spare one of these things, so you can swap things back and forth when your bike breaks down, and then you can kind of like be working on one motor while you're fixing the other motor. All right. So here is the motor guts for the other G62. So let's look at these. The threads on these axles. I mean, it seems like they're maybe I don't know, like, are they machined a little bit different here when they... It's kind of a weird thing, man. I don't know. Well, we're gonna look at little baby Samsung more, or little noisy boy more in the future. But so what I need to do with this motor now, does this have... Yeah, it has a parallel key in there. It's got some of that red grease in it. It's kind of a bummer. I wanted to do the other stuff. Probably just gonna put some of the other stuff on there. So let's open this up. Where do I have the thermistor on this thing? I have a thermistor on this? We gotta make sure that this motor's wired how I want it to be. Let's see here. A lot of people tell me that you gotta use a lot of grease and you want to use a lot and blah blah blah. I've found that you don't need nearly as much as people in the comments will tell you. Let's put this thing back together. I think there's supposed to be like a little shim on here. I'm gonna take it from the other motor. Let's see. Right here, this little guy. All right, let's get this thing going back in here. There we go. All right, now we just got to get all the bolts back in here, and then... All right, we're back. I got the bolts in. I've got the brake rotor back in there, and the motor core is back in here. So now I need to decide what to do with this jam nut, and I'm a little bit scared how on this other motor the axle snapped right where that jam nut threads on there, and it happened right after I put that new jam nut on there. So I don't know. I think it might have just been coincidence. I think that I don't really have any other options than using one of these jam nuts, because I've used all of the ones that I had. So let's see if this jam nut can thread onto these axles better, because I don't think I ever really did regen with this motor. So I think that I think these threads on this motor are a little bit cleaner and there's less damage on here. Yeah. So on this one, so that was another thing about doing regen with these motors, is like, if your axle's wiggling around at all from doing the regen, then the threads on your axle get all mangled up. Okay, so there's a little bit of resistance right here, but for the most part I was able to twist this jam nut on there just by hand. Just all the way down there except for right towards the end. Where did my... Man, I keep losing tools today. Like, usually I'm pretty good with this. Alright, this is behind me. So I'm just gonna gently... Maybe I should put some grease on this thing a little bit. Let's see. A little bit of grease in here. It's starting to get a little bit tough to twist it right there, so we're gonna grease her up a little bit. All right. I'm just gonna, so we'll thread it on there just by hand again to see how it goes. There we go, there we go. There we go, going nicely, going nicely. All right, so I think this is usually like where the dropout kind of bites onto the axle, and it's usually mangled up a little bit. So let's hold the axle on the opposite side and use this to tighten the jam nut past that difficult part on the threads here. And then usually once it gets past that part, it can go back to being finger tightened. There we go, like right here. You can usually just like finish this up by finger tightening it. I do see the jam nut is getting a little slightly stripped out there. Not too bad. GoPro, can you see that? I don't know. Jam nut got stripped out a little bit, just like a tiny, small amount, but not too bad. Let's see, can we get these pieces of metal shrapnel out of there? Okay. So let's just screw this thing on the rest of the way here by hand. So somebody was telling me that I screw on my jam nuts too tight, but I mean, like, all you do is you just screw it, like, you just like screw it in there. Like I'm not tightening this thing on, even with a tool. So that's finger tight. That's as far back as it'll go. Ooh, it's still. That's kind of weird. Let's see here. Alright, so I've just finger tightened this jam nut down to the end of those threads in there. And this time I don't think I'm going to do regen. We're not going to use the welded clutch and do regen this time. So I'm not concerned about any problems happening with this. I'm basically convinced that all of my problems happened from doing regen. I'm torn. I'm sure I've said this several times now in this video. I'm repeating myself, but I am very torn now because I welded that clutch and then I experienced the wonders of regen, and then it really scared me when, I mean, everything about doing regen with these motors is kind of scary, to be honest. Like, kind of scary. Everything about doing regen with these motors is kind of scary because it's so powerful and there's so much torque. You've really got to calibrate the regen properly. I mean, apparently I had it set up so that the regen was too powerful, but I mean, I guess my problem, I think, was probably just that I didn't buy that regen torque arm for such a long time, and I tried to make it work without that. And I think the axle was probably like wiggling around a little slightly, and like it, so if you're doing regen braking with one of these motors and like you're working on your torque arms and like trying to get everything working right, like if your axle is able to wiggle around at all when you're doing regen, then I would say I wouldn't do regen. Like, that would be my opinion at this point. I don't know. I'm really conflicted about the geared hub regen now. Before the axle snapped, I couldn't give you enough accolades and positive thoughts about it, but then I snapped my axle with it, and it's just kind of like, oh boy, what am I doing here? I'm doing the tools all wrong here. Let's see. So is this thing, let's see here. Oh. Man, I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, guys, so let's see here. Alright. So we've got the cassette back on here, working nicely. Alright guys, so I've got the motor back on the bike. I've turned the battery on. It's at 56.8 volts. I've connected my VESC tool app on my phone to the Flipski VESC controller. So I'm going to do setup motors here. It's been a while since I set one of these up. So I'm going to do no to the low default parameters. I'm going to hit override, uncheck all of this stuff. Let's go to next. Alright, so I think it's a large outrunner because the magnets are on the outside and they go around the stator. So then we'll do override. So I'm going to do max power loss. So on the Bafang G60 2000 watt motor, I usually do like 350 max power loss or something, I think. And then the motor pulls, I think that was 100 is what I used to do, right? 100 effective motor pulls because we've got... There's 20 motor pulls, 20 magnets on the rotor, but then it's 5-to-1 internal gearing. So you do 5 times 20 is 100 effective motor pulls. Alright, so let's just start it up with this, and we'll do the... So we've got 14 cells in series, 8 amp hour capacity. That's what little baby Samsung is. Let's make the battery current regen 0 and then the battery current max. I'm gonna make it like 35 amps instead of 30 is the stock. I want to make it like 35. Let's go to next. So the gear ratio, I'm just gonna hit direct drive because it's a hub motor, and I think we can keep the old wheel diameter that I had before. Motor pulls, so there's my temperature sensor. Alright, so let's do run detection on the motor so that it can detect the new face wires for this motor. It's pretty crazy how much truer and how much better this double-walled rim is that I built this motor into than those single-wall rims. Man, I have a fat bike. I have a couple other bikes that have those single-wall rims on the fat bike, and they just suck, man. Alright, so we've got this detection result. It says it's got the Hall sensors. Let's make it go forward. Is that right? Yep, forward. Oh! Man, that was crazy. What just happened there? Alright, let's finish. So it says the motor temp is 22. That seems okay-ish. Let's go to motor config, current. So the motor current max. I guess those motor detection results came up with a little bit higher than I usually do. I usually do like 75 amps motor current max. For the motor current max brake, I'm just making that 0. I'm gonna write it. Battery current max is 35 amps. Alright, so then let's go set up my throttle. Set up input. So I think we got it working again, guys. We just gotta set up the ADC throttle quick. Because I'm not using Regen anymore, and before I was mapping my throttle in a special way to do it. So I'm gonna push the throttle all the way, then release it like half of the way, and then applying right. So now I think the throttle should be all set up, and then we can, so control type I'm gonna use current, because I'm not doing any regen, so let's write that, hit next. All right. So let's see here. How are we doing? There we go. Nice. 38 miles an hour unloaded on 56 volts. Motor temp seems to be working okay. Seems like my brake rotor might be rubbing a little bit just because of that traumatic experience where the whole axle and probably this whole side of the bike was bending. Alright guys, well that's the snapped axle on my Bafang G62 hub motor. Guys, let's just take a minute to think about that and how dangerous that could be when if your axle snaps on your e-bike motor when you're riding it. Like, think about how dangerous that could be. That's crazy. I'm just thankful that it happened to me, and it happened to me when I was in my yard going 5 miles an hour and the axle snapped and I basically just put my feet down to the ground and that was it. And I lived to tell the tale, and I can show you guys the results and warn you. I don't know guys, I'm really torn about the regen, about doing the regen with these motors. I'll probably make another video in the future, but I don't know. I mean, I think for this winter I might run this motor without regen just because I don't want the axle to snap again. I want to get your guys' input in the comments about why you think this axle snapped, and if there's anything that I did wrong or anything that I could have done better. I mean, do you think that these motors, I mean, should you be taking these motors like on like a mild mountain biking course? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about what happened to the Noisy Boy G62 here. I'll definitely make a video in the future about getting this planet carrier off of here, because I used that Loctite 648, and like when I wanted to fix that play with the regen, so this whole planet carrier the welded planet carrier is literally like bonded to this axle, and we'll make a video trying to get this thing off just to see how hard it is to get that Loctite 648 to break loose. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I really want to do regen anymore. I'm really like torn, because I got it working and it was kind of fun to like go through all those upgrades and experience what regen is like, and it works so good. The geared hub regen worked so good. Like, this works so good, guys. It's such a bummer that just the axle snapped. The rest of this motor was still okay. Like, I could still use this rotor. I could still probably use this welded clutch if I wanted to, or these gears if I could get the clutch off the axle. Man, but I mean, the rotor is worth like $50 if you ever mess up the rotor and the magnets start coming loose and stuff, or the rotor gets warped. It's nice to have a spare rotor. I've had to buy one of those on eBay before. Alright guys, well,
That was kind of a bummer. The axle snapped. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know your theories in the comments. For now, I think I'm just going to take it easy. I think we're not going to do regen anymore for now. I'm just going to put this welded clutch in the box for a rainy day, for when I'm bored and I feel like risking my life or something. I don't know. This is what it looks like coming out the other side there. Yikes. Oh. Alright, well, this video is so long, bubs. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Stick around on the e-bike builder channel. We got some big things coming soon. Some big things coming in 2025. Gonna share some new things with you, some new happenings. Gonna be featuring some new content on the channel that I haven't done a whole lot of in the past. Doing some battery stuff, so stay tuned, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Peace out. Later.